All right, last night definitely had one of the most interesting conversations I have ever had on Twitter. And you're like, what? On Twitter? Yes, definitely one of the most intriguing conversations I had with an actual game developer. It all started with this tweet. It went sort of viral, has 700,000 views on it, talking about, but how could you add difficulty options to Dark Souls? And in this tweet, Forza Horizon 5 has an accessibility option that lets you directly alter the game's speed. Physics are still preserved, but everything plays out slower, giving you more reaction time. This is a fantastic example of what I mean. So obviously, since this is Twitter, he's not able to go really in depth on really what he's trying to say. From just from the looks of it, things just seem off. And obviously, comparing Forza and Dark Souls, I mean, I even said in a tweet, comparing Forza and Dark Souls is not the best example of comparison for accessibility. And Dark Souls' whole identity is literally is to overcome difficult challenges, while Forza is a racing driving simulator. And obviously, I did follow up with other stuff. But first of all, to add more context. The person who posted this is named Rudism on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that's his content creator name as well. He is also a game developer. Not sure on his work, but he definitely has played the Souls series before, and was able to literally play Dark Souls 3 and beating it with a Morse code. So 19 bosses, all 19 bosses, and 258,000 buttons pressed, 258,000 plus buttons pressed. And he uses this whole example saying just because it can't be beaten with one button doesn't mean games like Dark Souls shouldn't have accessibility and difficulty options. Now, for the longest time, the whole Dark Souls and difficulty, like easy mode difficulty, has always been a big topic in the gaming community for years, right? And I decided to sort of challenge that statement that he made, because obviously, to my eyes, obviously I'm not no game dev, but just to my eyes, I felt that something just feels off about this, and I'm always curious, like, what are they trying to say? And I'm pretty sure these developers always try to emphasize and explain to us players that there's ways to maintain and not change the intended experience for the Dark Souls series. So yeah, I follow up with this. Also, by the way, this is sort of an improv video, so if things feel off with the commentary, my apologies, because a lot of my stuff, I want this to come out, and I want this video to be more genuine. This is literally coming from the heart. And again, the fact that I sort of called out this own game developer, a person who makes games, very familiar on making games, me calling him out, I challenged that statement of what this person made. So obviously, he has, there's tons of replies on here that that people would argue, right? And I'm not gonna go down in the feed, because honestly, things could get a little bit toxic. We don't want to go down there, right? Bless his soul for that as well. I as well, literally, again, challenge his statement on what he made, because it is just the two comparisons don't really match together. And I followed up with the statement. Also, again, I forgot to mention this. My tweet comes from a genuine thought, no honestly malicious intent to exclude people. From my perspective, I just see that video games aren't really meant for everybody. Not every game is not able to cater towards certain audiences, and that's why from my perspective, when it comes to many video games, when they try to always cater to people, it sort of comes out in a I guess you could say in a wrong way, but I guess, and again, it just comes from the whole thing I'm just trying to say is to prevent sort of gatekeeping on people trying to make a certain game the way they want it to be, when it should be devs making their own games on what they want to make, you know? Again, comes from a full other perspective of being genuine on, like, devs should make games they want to make. They shouldn't really prioritize other stuff that could possibly interfere with their game design. And again, the problem with the statement that I personally make is that I was excluding people, and in the end of the day, we don't want to necessarily exclude people when it comes to video games, because I think personally, I love when I see other people play my favorite games. I love when my relatives try out my favorite games. It's nice to see, you know, friends and family, anyone, to try out these cool video games that I personally enjoy, you know, and if they think there's a problem, or you know, on just trying to play the game, definitely I would want to, you know, see developers fix certain problems, and so that they'll be able to progress throughout the whole game and play it and find some sort of enjoyment with it. So I start here saying I believe accessibility options is a great thing. Comparing Forza and Dark Souls is not the best example of comparison for its accessibility, because again, Dark Souls is a whole identity to overcome the difficult challenges, and Forza is a racing driving simulator. I follow up saying you can't necessarily compare a game that is designed on hard, difficult timing to execute on, while Forza is not known for its difficulty, it's known for its driving experience. If games are designed to be difficult in every mechanic of the game, then let it be. So again, if you want more, here's more context to the video. So basically, when you're offline in Forza Horizon 5, just recently came out, looks like a fantastic game. You're able to actually sort of slow down the game speed. So this is the normal speed. Here, let me rewind it so you guys can see the speed. And then when you go on accessibility options, you're able to put down the game speed so that people are able to react more properly. And as you see here, there's sort of a bit of change here, even though things are still working properly as if you were to put it on normal speed. Things still control the way they are. People just have a chance, the accessibility, to have more chance to react properly. They'll still literally have. Sorry, the car is so noisy. They'll still have time to. They'll still have a hard time reacting to, to the game, but it gives, again, a little bit more reaction time for this, and we're going to talk about this later on. As you see here, lets you directly alter the game speed. Physics are preserved, but everything plays out slower, giving you more reaction time. So, again, just gives an opportunity to those who need it, need that sort of accessibility. It is such a great option to Forza Horizon 5, and also should be in many other games who sort of want that accessibility. So I continue here. Not every game is meant for everyone to enjoy. Dark Souls is purely designed to be difficult, which means it has limitations mechanically for its combat. If we consistently beg for an easy difficulty, it changes the whole entire game design philosophy of the Souls series. There's a reason why there's a... let me just press it on here. There's a reason why there's a community that is so attached to From Software games. Also, if you want devs to have creative freedom to make impressive games, doing this to them doesn't do any justice, and again, it changes of what makes every Souls game unique. You know, that aged like fine wine, you could say. I'm just kidding. Aged like milk. So I think 30 minutes later or so, a dev named Ian Hamilton, who is a accessibility specialist, helping studios avoid excluding disabled gamers, replied to my tweet, and I was very surprised that this is a very reputable man, and according to his tweets and replies, apparently he was like he's like a game developer for about, I think, 15 years, according to one of the tweets and replies. There's probably a lot of replies that. There's probably a lot of replies he had throughout when it comes to this whole topic, because I did see some replies when he was talking to others about this whole topic, and he's doing his best to honestly just educate us about the matter. And I'm quite happy that he actually stopped by on my tweet and replied, and obviously corrected me on this whole situation, because I think in the gaming industry, I think it's nice for us players and game developers to have this sort of understanding to why they do these certain things in their games. So he starts out with saying Celeste, I think Celeste, that's how you pronounce it. Celeste has exactly the same design intent as from Software games, experiencing a feeling of success through persistence, even the same way that concept is woven into the narrative, and yet Celeste has exactly the same option being shown here in Forza, and along with invincibility. And the fact that he mentioned this kind of was like off-putting. I was like, how does that even work? And also, this was like late at night when he was replying to my comment. Apparently it was 1:54 a.m. It was not even I was still awake at that time, guys. I have a hard time sleeping, but yeah. So to me, that was off-putting, because I was like, wait, how would that work then if someone is able to go through the whole entire game being invincible? And that kind of, and again, it just sort of goes against of what From Software games do with their design philosophy. So when he replied to my tweet, I felt like this was the opportunity to start dropping questions and have this understanding with another game developer. This is like my first time actually talking to someone pretty reputable within the gaming industry, so I took the opportunity and just start asking questions, because I'm very curious about this topic and how game design works, how game development works. And again, my purpose is not to literally shame this whole thing. I was just so confused on why this was a comparison and what are they even talking about. So I continue on saying that From Software games relies on speed, timing, and reaction as one of their core game designs. I personally have not seen Celeste's accessibility option, or neither have I played it. But how does that particularly work and not affect the game's difficulty? And this is where like the interesting conversation starts to happen, because this is where let's just read this. It's the other way around. The game does not have a fixed level of difficulty. No games do. The game has some barriers which result in different levels of difficulty for different players. This is why if you and I play any game, one of us will find it harder than the other. The Celeste devs recognize that human variance exists, that if it has level 5 barriers, a person with ability level 3 will experience difficulty level 2. A person with ability level 1 will experience difficulty level 4. But they want everyone to play at difficulty 3, which you could say that is like the normal thing that that is intended, right? So he continues on saying, so how can everyone play at difficulty 3? Let at the level of barriers change and align that with that human variance. So level 6 versus level 3 ability equals level 3 difficulty, and then level 4 barriers versus level 1 ability equals level 3 difficulty. And he says, does that make sense? So I thought this was basically was an insight, and the fact that he sort of debunked, like, yeah, game difficulty is not really a thing. It's literally about how is the game is designed and what challenges it can make. As he refers back to that, this is why if you and I play any sort of game, one of us will find it harder than the other, because it varies on the situation we're in. The way that people approach things are different from each other. Again, that's why some people may find possibly a certain level harder than another, you know, compared to each other. And when having this sort of balancing into the game, where a level 6 basically barrier challenge versus a level 3 of a person's ability equals to a level 3 difficulty, The fact that a person is able to still have challenges, just as someone who has challenges on, I could say, a quote unquote easy mode, still gives the intended experience for for how the game is designed. And Ian Hamilton continues on saying that it runs the full spectrum all the way to playing with invincibility turn on and 50% speed on, which is, again, it goes back to this whole thing right here. When turning on this, or altering the game speed. He said that it runs the full spectrum all the way to playing invincibility turn on and 50% speed. Those settings can allow people to have a difficult experience instead of an impossible one. And here's how. The fact that I said it's still, those settings can allow. See, this is a good sentence right here. Can allow people to have a difficult experience instead of an impossible one. And here's how. So he gives me a screenshot of a thread that he did back in March 6, 2020, talking about saying how he knows someone who is forbidden from using his hands on doctors' orders due to severe RSI. The only way he interacts with text is through voice commands map to keys in action. He plays games like this if, for example, if he says the word jump, that is mapped to the pressing space. As you can no doubt imagine, that it's a slow and imprecise way of interacting. It is completely impossible for him to play Celeste and Cuphead out of the box, no matter how much he practices. Celeste has options much like the Cuphead mod, even has options that allow you to play the game with invincibility, infinite dashes, and game speed reduced to 50%. To you, that might be instinctively sound like cheating, destroying the dev's vision, removing all value from the game. But with all those options turned on, he is able to play Celeste. Even when them turn on, it is extremely difficult for him. Still takes him a great deal of practice and trial and error to get past each screen, rewarding challenge success through persistent, pushing his abilities to the limit, learning from each attempt and trying again. So those options haven't ruined the experience or gone against the developer's vision. They've in fact given him the kind of experience the devs wanted their players to have. So again, this is a great example, again, that why we shouldn't exclude players when it comes to quote unquote easy mode difficulty for Dark Souls or any sort of game in general, because not everyone is able to play games normally. And I think a lot of us gamers are so stuck in our head thinking that we're all the same, that we're able to play these certain games the same, when in reality we don't play these games the same. There's a lot of people out there all over the world. It's not just one certain area or whatever. It's all over the world that deal with these sort of problems in gaming, and they want to enjoy games. They want to try out these games, and I do personally believe that this should be really a thing. Again, for when it comes to accessibility. So, again, Ian Hamilton really just puts me in my place when it comes to talking about this, because this is like a whole different I guess spectrum of of what I didn't really think about when tweeting that, obviously, because again, it was just comparing Forza and Dark Souls, and it's just ridiculous. The typical Twitter stuff where I thought I was gonna see another bumhead tweet thinking like, oh, like this is gonna be some sort of where I just start to lose brain cells. But no, I'm glad I was educated on this matter. So it doesn't end there, because there's gonna be more. So he uses the same thing of what I've mentioned to him, where Celeste relies on speed, time, and reaction as one of their core game designs, and is based on dying and dying repeatedly, gradually learning until you finally succeed through persistence. Even the narrative is about success through persistence. Sounds pretty similar to From Software games, eh? And he links me here. Here's a short video that explains the relationship between difficulty and accessibility, which I don't necessarily want to go over this. I know it's 6 minutes and the video is a bit long, but the point of this video is to quickly, provide a summary of this whole situation. And you guys, honestly, I will link the stuff and talk about. I will link this video to make sure you guys watch this. I think this is a great example on what difficulty and accessibilities are, and I think Ian Hamilton does a great job on this presentation, this whole PowerPoint. It's only 6 minutes, it's short. Please watch it. I think it's very, very informative, and he pretty much handles this whole presentation well. So I will link it in the description and also within the comment section so you guys could check it out and probably watch it first and then come back here. Alright, so there's a second part of the thread, which I continue from here. So when he says, does that make sense? I said, yes, it does. I appreciate the insight on this topic. I always wonder how games could be break down to these different difficulties without ruining the intended experience. Obviously, this is all in 200 characters, so I wasn't able to literally word stuff properly. I think this is a sort of a bad situation having this sort of discussion. I wish I could actually talk about this in person or through video call or something. It would have been nice to really just talk about video games in general, with him about this whole situation. But yeah, I was honestly, just asking some questions of what I've was confused on. I was obviously replying to also the tweet that he made with the screenshot talking about this, about a person's disability, of how he can't use his hands. And it made me think about like how can game developers approach this situation when it comes to gaming, when it comes to accessibility. And one of the solutions I sort of thought of when it comes to this is that developers would probably have to alter some certain game scenarios, some game bits, certain bits of the game, I mean. And when I say alter, I don't mean drastically change the whole entire game or like drastically change the level. I just mean just a little small change so that the person would have some certain accessibility within these certain levels, right? So I said, would you say that developers would have to alter certain scenarios of the game, or does it go back to the topic of levels and barriers, of where he talks about here, where you don't necessarily need to change the game, and where you could just sort of up the ante to certain levels in the game, as you see here, where a level 6 barrier and a level 4 barrier and a level 3 ability and level 1 ability is still the same of a level 3 difficulty. So it doesn't matter what sort of it doesn't really matter of what difficulty the player's in. It's just how the level is designed. It's still sort of the same in the end of the day. It gives the same intended experience. So anyway, yeah, let's repeat the question. Would you say that devs would have an alter certain scenarios of the game, or does it go back to the topic of levels and barriers? And he says here, yes, accounting for human variance is all about how that variance relates to barriers. Sometimes those barriers can be avoided by design. See, there you go. But sometimes they need options. So there, he does confirm that, yeah, they may have to tweak some stuff a bit. But it really depends on how it's designed, because if we're accounting for like human variance, right, like different, because again, everyone plays differently, in the end of the day. So it's the fact of just having these options when playing these games. That's what really makes a good game design. That's what I always emphasize in a lot of games I play, especially if I'm playing on like a very hard mode difficulty in these games. I'm like, do I really have the options? And if I really do have all these sorts of options in the game, I'm really gonna just be enjoying it. I'll be able to find my ways to approach a lot of stuff in game. And again, see, and if we're accounting for like how different people, or how people react differently to these barriers, Again, it's just nice to have multiple options to approach and have these sort of features, and again, accessibility to this, because the whole point of accessibility in this whole conversation and this topic is that the point is to not make games easier, but it's to make those who are in need, those who are not capable to play the normal way. That's the point of accessibility. You know, there's a big difference with accessibility and difficulty, and that's what Ian Hamilton was pretty much trying to say within his presentation. So a person who's not capable of doing the normal stuff of what a normal player would do, like me, it's great to have accessibility options for that player, so that they're able to also play just like any other normal player. You know, we're not trying to exclude any sort of players at all, and I think that's what's good within, you know, this industry nowadays. You could see this. You could also see how he's very passionate about this. He's like literally talking to a nobody like me on Twitter, and yet he's educating me about this whole topic and situation. I think this was a really insightful conversation, and I do continue on, to sort of wrap up this little interview I had on Twitter, because I always wonder about this. I want to know what goes behind the scenes when it comes to game development, because I always wonder, like, so I said this may seem out of topic now. Also, I don't know if you are able to answer this, but if accessibility is so important, why do many games to this day haven't had many? Does it take a huge amount of time to plan and create, to where the industry just starts to ignore it because of time? And what I mean by that, obviously, I'm limited to 200 characters, like damn you, Twitter, but I was trying to say that where the industry starts to ignore it because of time management, like they just wouldn't even have enough time. Also, I would have to say also, like maybe due to budget or something. That's I wanted to add on to that, but I wanted him to first answer the question. So I was sort of nervous on talking about this because I'm really going deep into the industry, and I obviously don't, some developers, are under NDA sometimes, because a lot of game developers don't really talk about what goes behind the scenes when developing a video game, and I think it's very important that we to let us players know about it. I think it's best to let us know, be educated about the situation, have set expectations, for us when it comes to this sort of stuff. So that's why I asked that question, because I'm like, if accessibility is very important, like where's it in the many games this past decade and even before? And the reason why, and my assumption is like, oh, does it take a huge amount of time to plan and create? To where the industry just starts to ignore it because of time management, or maybe because of budget issues. I have no idea. He continues on saying that it has dramatically changed in the past few years. It's now hard to find a AAA game that doesn't have a wide range of considerations. So he does refer me to a lot of pages of these game companies that do provide accessibility options in gaming. For example, PlayStation, the one that he linked here, is about The Last of Us, which personally is honestly literally one of the only games that I'm aware of. Literally only one of the games that I'm aware of that has a lot of all these accessibility options that you're able to have, and yet this doesn't actually affect the game. It's just there, to benefit the player. And to get out of all this is just honestly, having more option for players is good. It's not a bad thing, and it is all about how developers are willing to implement them, how they are able to design them. The Last of Us Part 2 has one of the most accessibility options ever I've seen in the game, and the fact that it has all this is great to see. And you're able to even remap your controller, which your controls, which you're not even able to do at all in any sort of console game. So you have to give, even though I know The Last of Us Part 2 had sort of a backlash to people, you have to respect them for all these features they did. Because when I initially played it, I always thought that was really cool of them to do. The fact of them, they have this. See, you could literally have the controller flipped, and it would be playable for those who want to play like this. You know, so I think this is really, really cool. And look, the list literally goes on when it comes to this. It's like endless. So you have to respect that. And then he also continues on saying, going back to not too many years ago, it was rare to see a game that even had colorblind support. Then the biggest barrier was the lack of awareness that accessibility was even a thing. So the fact that like this always got to me, even when I was a teenager, because I do know some colorblind people, and I was always surprised when it comes to gaming, because like when it comes to gaming and accessibility, you know, back in the day, the first thing you would think about is the eyes. And the fact that not many games had colorblind support is honestly, like, it's very questionable of why it wasn't a thing, you know? And it goes back to the topic of where, if we're going to use that logic of we want everyone to have the intended experience, this doesn't, having the lack of accessibility for colorblind support really goes against that logic, because that person is not able to actually see the intended experience because of its colors. Because of the colors on screen of what they see. So yeah, it's a mind-boggling thing that the industry really didn't think of throughout the many years, considering how gaming is a very popular hobby to many of us. And he ends it off here saying, now pretty much all developers have heard of it. Most have done at least something towards it, so towards like accessibility. And the biggest barriers at the moment is, one, thinking about too late in development when it's hard to go back and change things. See, and that's something I actually, you know, sort of thought of and sort of referring to, of like, is it because of time management or whatever? And he sort of confirms that, yeah, like it's thinking about it too late in development. See, the fact that it isn't not necessarily a priority to them, when it goes hard, when it's too hard to go back and change things. And number two, the misconceptions about the cost usage. Now, this was something that seemed vague to me. I wish I sort of asked him more questions, but it was very late at night. It was 2:44 a.m. I was getting sleepy, and we sort of wrapped it up here because he says here, good question though, and I said, thank you again. I appreciate your time discussing this with me. I was always curious of what goes behind the scenes on this stuff, so I'm glad I have an insight on this now. And then Ian Hamilton says, you know, he's happy to help. Bless this guy's soul, because he's doing his best all over Twitter to educate people on the matter, but some are not honestly listening to him, and they're giving him the most toxic comments ever. And I believe he doesn't need that sort of ignorance. That it's just, honestly, I don't think that's the right way to even talk to people on this site, because like some people on this site just don't want to listen. But fortunately enough, I was one of them who wanted to listen. But yeah, bless this guy's soul. You gotta give him a lot of respect for educating many people on this matter. But again, I wanted to really know about this because he says that too, misconceptions about cost and then usage. So I don't know what he necessarily means about cost and usage. Like, is it because of budget issues? Do developers think they're gonna be or teams, studios think they'll be using more money when trying to add in accessibility options and usage? I'm not sure what he means by usage, like when it comes to like, again, I guess time management. I have no clue. So people in the comments down below, if you guys understand what he's trying to say on number 2, let me know. But you know, I sort of wish I sort of asked him more about the situation at hand when I had the opportunity. But you know, it was late at night and I sort of was getting sleepy. But like, I think this whole discussion I had on Twitter was one of the most insightful things I really did had, because first of all, I'm talking to legitimately like a developer within the gaming industry who's who's a very experienced person, who's been in the industry for like the longest, and he's talking about the very important stuff of what it, like, he's, the fact that he's considering this, right? The fact that he's very passionate about this topic shows a lot. It just shows that our devs are still passionate, you know, on making games and providing a service to us. And you know, like, a lot of them, they don't have to do this sort of stuff. They really don't. But the fact that they're very considerate and they're thinking about people's issues, they're thinking about what could make people great on the situation. They're thinking what could be convenient for many people, for people who can't play normally, of what could be convenient for them. And I'm glad, you know, this is the thing. I'm glad that he said that, you know, developers nowadays, you know, are hearing about it and they're doing their best. They're trying to do something at least, you know, within their games to have these options. And I think also in the end of the day, of what I mentioned before, is it's very important for developers and players to not be disconnected with each other, but to be united and actually talk about these sort of topics, these sort of things, so we are more educated on the matter. And not only that, it gives a sense of gives developers ideas on what players want in their games. So I hope this video is honestly insightful for you guys. This is normally a video I don't normally make, but I hope this is something you guys have some sort of insight on this sort of discussion, because again, I'm very glad I was able to have this conversation on Twitter and we were able to go back and forth exchanging questions or like statements with each other. So I'm happy. This was a really this is honestly a big thing for me, because I really love gaming. You know, it's my passion, and I always want to know what goes behind the scenes of this. So comment down below what you guys think of it, because I would honestly want to hear your guys' opinions as well. How do you feel about this? Do you guys, you know, did you guys change your opinion about this? Like, were you always someone who disagreed on the Soul series having a easy mode, or now you turn into a new leaf on this whole situation? Because again, I'm definitely all about accessibility now. You know, we can't exclude people like that. So I really, again, love this discussion, and definitely this tweet. I will honestly put this whole thread, I'll link you guys this whole thread. I don't want to delete it, because I think this is a very educational topic or discussion to read about. So, and it's a quick read, it's not that long, you know, it's really not that long. And the video that he let me see, the video that he linked is a very cool topic to have, or it's a very good topic to really hearing him out on. It's only 6 minutes, so just watch it. I will link it also down below, so go ahead and check it out. This is a really good informative PowerPoint that you should watch. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out, and I hope everyone has a great day.